Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Thursday, January 13th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. It's an issue many are facing each day, the worry of your job during the pandemic. And for those on the front lines, it's a scary time, especially if you don't have paid sick leave too. Well, today, labor unions and essential workers urged lawmakers to do something about that. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman begins our coverage.
The public health research is clear. When workers have the option to isolate and not lose their earnings, transmission goes down.
Tia Orr leads California's Service Employees International Union, or SEIU. She says 2 weeks of COVID-19 paid leave is essential during a record surge in infections and rising hospitalizations.
If you or your children are sick or have been exposed, you need to make sure not to pass it on, and that means staying at home. But unfortunately, if you have to go to work in order to pay the rent or put food on the table, you might not feel like you have a choice.
Rhiannon Ramos works at Stater Bros grocery store and says she ended up testing positive for the virus but did not have enough sick time to cover her quarantine period. Now she says she's out of sick days through next August.
I had the choice to ignore my results and continue to work, seeing as money was very tight as I got off of disability, but I stayed home. And I made the decision to protect my coworkers and customers.
Labor unions, including the United Nurses Associations of California, which represents more than 9,000 San Diego healthcare workers, are calling on employers to provide sick leave right now. Registered nurse Jeffrey Newgood is currently isolating at home after testing positive.
Right now, while I'm off, I have to use PTO, also known as paid time off. If I run out of this PTO, I will not be paid unless I go on medical leave.
Earlier this week, Governor Gavin Newsom suggested that he's on board with re-upping the sick leave, which previously expired last September, just before the current COVID-19 surge.
It's manageable, but it's challenging. It's difficult, and none more challenged than our frontline employees and these nurses and doctors that have just been overwhelmed. And we are in discussions with legislative leaders around our sick leave policy. And we believe it's important to value those workers and provide them sick leave protections.
Teachers are also calling on lawmakers to act quickly.
I can speak from experience. I, like most educators, receive a finite number of sick days per school year. When those days are gone, they're gone.
Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
The Supreme Court has blocked enforcement of President Biden's nationwide vaccine and testing mandate for large businesses. However, the court will allow a vaccine mandate for certain healthcare workers to take effect. The court's conservative majority ruled the Occupational Safety and Health Administration does not have the power to enact the mandate. It would have required workers at businesses with 100 or more employees to be fully vaccinated or undergo regular testing and wear a face covering. As COVID cases break records every day, hospitals nationwide say they're in dire straits, many with few ICU beds open. Today, President Biden announced new federal medical team deployments to help. More now from reporter Daryl Forges.
With COVID hospitalizations at record highs, President Biden is sending much-needed help to states struggling to keep up. On Thursday, the president announcing he's deploying military medical teams to 6 states: Ohio, New York, Michigan, Rhode Island, New Jersey, and New Mexico.
They're part of a major deployment of our nation's armed forces to help hospitals across the country manage this surge of the Omicron virus.
The president also says the government is purchasing 500 million additional COVID-19 tests. Another critical issue the president addressed: masks.
But I know that for some Americans, the mask is not always affordable or convenient to get. So next week we'll announce how we are making high-quality masks available to the American people for free.
It's a huge relief for hospitals stretched thin as healthcare staffing shortages strain healthcare systems across the country. According to the Department of Health and Human Services, hospitalizations are currently over 155,000.
We have over 300 people out right now for all reasons, but a lot of them are out due to COVID or because of pandemic-related concerns.
More than a dozen states reporting they have less than 15% of ICU beds left.
I am unable to care for the patients that we need to. I had 3 nurses leave because they can't do this again. They feel like we're going backwards.
Daryl Forges, KPBS News.
COVID-19 is now the leading cause of death among U.S. police officers. A new report from the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund found more than 300 federal, state, and local police officers died because of COVID last year. Despite the numbers, police officers and law enforcement unions have pushed back against vaccine mandates and have threatened resignations and lawsuits. Just yesterday, the San Diego Police Officers Association filed an injunction against the city of San Diego. It claims officers have not been allowed to record their interviews regarding their exemptions from the city's employee vaccine mandate. An announcement today at the Sweetwater Union High School District that the vaccine mandate will be pushed back. Students return to school today after winter break. Before the break, the district announced the mandate for students in extracurricular activities to be fulfilled by early February. Now those kids will have until May. Students who want to learn in person will need to be fully vaccinated by the start of the next school year. Some parents criticized the move, saying without the mandate, things may never get back to normal.
We as parents have to notify our jobs and say, hey, we might have been exposed. And so that leaves us, our family unit disrupted.
Teachers will be required to have their first vaccine dose by February 1st or apply for an exemption. Sobering challenges, but the strength and will to meet them. That was the central message from San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria in his 2022 State of the City speech. KPBS reporter John Carroll has more on the mayor's priorities for this year.
Before the mayor said a word, the setting for Wednesday night's speech said a lot. A nearly empty convention center, a reality forced by the fast-spreading Omicron variant.
I wish this year I could deliver this address to you in person, with the news that most of our woes were behind us. I am able to report that, yes, we have made a lot of progress.
Gloria's speech focused on a few big issues, among them San Diego's rising crime rate. He pledged to provide police the resources they need, with a focus on treating everyone fairly.
This help should come without excessive use of force, racial profiling, or any abuse by the men and women who are sworn to protect and serve. A great city can fully fund and support its law enforcement officers while also ensuring they honor their oath.
Gloria acknowledged the city's ongoing needs when it comes to infrastructure and pledged to spend the money needed for significant progress in addressing them.
These are core systems that are aging, outdated, often neglected, and in some cases in danger of failing. In 2021, we budgeted nearly $1 billion for critical infrastructure work. That's 4.5 times the amount we put towards infrastructure just a decade ago.
Housing, getting it for people who are on the streets and for those one step away from the street. Gloria says the city is moving aggressively to address both issues.
Housing with services ends homelessness. In 2021, we created 132 units of permanent supportive housing, and we have nearly 1,000 more in the pipeline. In 2021, we issued building permits and entitlements that will create as many as 12,000 new homes, with more than 6,500 in the pipeline right now.
The mayor finished on a note of confidence in San Diego's future.
Amid the darkest of times, and under the most difficult circumstances, we have seen a challenge, stepped up, come together, and we triumphed. This says to me that we can and will do it again.
John Carroll, KPBS News.
A public health emergency has been declared in Chula Vista as there is no end in sight to the Republic Services labor strike. KPBS reporter Alexandra Van Hel has more on how the city plans to clean up the overflowing garbage.
Trash cans filled to the brim can be seen street after street in Chula Vista. It's been nearly a month of trash piling up. Tito Mays says it's become a health hazard.
The infestation of all that trash just piled up in one place. You know, we're talking maggots, we're talking animals coming around, and we're talking just, just the air being polluted in this little space.
He lives in an apartment complex near East Orange Avenue and says he and his neighbors are taking a proactive approach. They're getting tired of seeing their kids play outside right next to an overflowing dump.
And we're going to try to put our money together, and I'll call my buddies and just have them haul it out and take it, to the landfill.
The building next door is also dealing with the same issues. Rene Dominguez says they've been paying an outside company to haul their trash to the landfill.
Become a health problem for everybody.
This is why City Council member Jill Galvez says a public health emergency has been declared by the city manager. She issued a Twitter statement on Wednesday saying the city would be invoking the self-help clause of their contract with Republic Services. She says city workers have started to pick up overflowing trash at multifamily housing complexes, and a plan for vector control will be put in place. The declaration is expected to be ratified at Tuesday's City Council meeting. Nearly 250 sanitation workers at Republic Services are still on strike. They say they're not going back to work until they get a contract they think is fair. Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
The man who killed Robert F. Kennedy will not be paroled after all. Governor Newsom has rejected releasing 77-year-old Sirhan from prison more than a half-century after the slaying shook the world in 1968. Kennedy, the U.S. Senator from New York, was killed moments after he claimed victory in California's pivotal Democratic presidential primary. The National Transportation Safety Board this week released its preliminary report on the plane crash that killed 4 people in an El Cajon neighborhood in late December. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado spoke with the agency and brings us the details.
On December 27th at 7:12 at night, a medical transport plane carrying 2 pilots and 2 nurses was about to land at Gillespie Field in El Cajon.
Check any traffic lights for us a little bit more. They're at 100% now.
That was the last communication between the pilot and air traffic control. Something went terribly wrong. Moments later, the plane crashed into this El Cajon neighborhood.
Oh my God.
All 4 people on board the Learjet were killed. No one on the ground was hurt. The National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, the federal agency that investigates all plane crashes, has released a preliminary report. Peter Knudsen with the NTSB gave a few details about the final moments of the flight, which originated in Santa Ana.
The aircraft was in contact with the controllers at Gillespie Field, and the pilot had requested a change from an instrument flight approach to one of the runways to a visual approach to another runway, 27 right, and was on the approach to that runway when the accident occurred.
Knudsen says they have not determined if that change played a role in the crash, but another factor is generating a lot of speculation.
The aircraft did hit a power line shortly before crashing. It is unusual for aircraft to hit power lines,
but he says it's too early to determine if that was the cause.
We have drawn no conclusion about what role that had in the accident.
Visibility is another major factor they're looking into. That evening was overcast, and the pilot asked for more lighting.
Check any traffic lights for us a little bit more.
Lighting conditions, as well as the weather, the cloud conditions, things of that nature. So all of that is what we're going to be digging into more deeply.
Knudsen says what stands out about this crash is the fact that another happened just 2 months earlier involving the same airport. That plane crashed into a Santee neighborhood. He says this report is just the tip of the iceberg, but if this airport has issues that are putting the community at risk, they will address that in the final report.
It's possible that if we find safety issues that can be addressed, we would potentially make safety recommendations to reduce the likelihood of this kind of accident occurring again.
Investigations into both crashes are still in their initial phases. Final reports take about 24 months to be completed. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
The city of Chula Vista has become known for its aggressive use of drones and other police surveillance technology. Yet city leaders insist they're using these tools without jeopardizing the privacy of their law-abiding residents. However, KPBS's Amita Sharma reports that Chula Vista is giving a private corporation wide control over any data on people collected by its police surveillance systems.
Chula Vista city officials billed the police department's new real-time operations center as a state-of-the-art public safety hub. Privacy advocates say it's a Trojan horse. In late 2020, with no public debate and no competitive bidding, the Chula Vista City Council voted unanimously to approve a contract with Motorola Solutions that, among other things, allows the company to use, copy, analyze, publish, and offer subscription services to any data that passes through its real-time operations center. Those data include live social media feeds, information picked up by the agency's automated license plate readers, and video captured by its drones sent out to 911 calls.
We're talking about a real-time, perpetual history of our lives, our most intimate moments, where we go, who we spend times with, how we socialize. This is seeing who goes to church on Sunday and who goes to Friday prayers at a mosque. This is something that goes far beyond George Orwell's worst nightmares.
Albert Fox Kahn is executive director of the New York-based Surveillance Technology Oversight Project.
This is really just chilling. It feels like handing over Californians, information wholesale to these surveillance vendors, and a real dereliction of duty.
Chula Vista city leaders refused to comment on the contract, but in November, Mayor Mary Salas told KPBS, quote, "There's always a concern at City Hall about trampling on the privacy rights of residents with new technology, and that council members and staff are, quote, ever watchful of it."
On our staff, we have excellent people that really have dedicated their lives to this, and that really are real students of this, and I have faith in their expertise.
Advocates disagree. They are especially alarmed that the city also granted Motorola Solutions permission to sell any data run through its real-time operations center as long as it's anonymized.
I have never seen a contract this bad.
Brian Hofer is executive director of the Oakland-based privacy advocacy group Secure Justice.
If the Chula Vista City Council or administration or procurement folks reviewed this with a lens of protecting their residents' privacy and civil liberties, they completely failed.
Motorola did not respond to an interview request. San Diego ACLU lawyer Mitra Ibadulahi contends the overall contract so lopsidedly favors Motorola Solutions that she wonders whether Chula Vista city officials understood the stakes or were simply outfoxed by the company's high-priced lawyers.
Either they lack the expertise to appropriately analyze and understand these contractual terms, in which case they shouldn't be entering into these contracts at all, or they understand these terms and they're happily trading away the privacy rights of Chula Vista residents.
Fox Kahn says that privacy loss is Motorola Solutions' financial windfall.
The data broker industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry that is trying to take everything we do, both in digital spaces and physical spaces, and turn it into a product for the highest bidder.
He and other privacy advocates want lawmakers to bar cities like Chula Vista from cutting deals with companies giving them access to data on their residents.
This is something that police departments should be protecting us from, not something that they should be fueling.
From privacy security to national security, tomorrow we'll tell you how Chula Vista police almost exclusively buy their drones from a Chinese manufacturer on a watch list for spying. Amita Sharma, KPBS News.
Employees of local solar companies are rallying to send Governor Newsom a message. They left for Los Angeles this morning to join workers from across the state in protesting the latest California Public Utilities Commission proposal. It would tax rooftop solar customers and reduce compensation for clean energy. If customers get less credit for using solar, employees worry less people will invest in solar, which means less work for them.
Anywhere from installers to electricians to administrative folks, salespeople, accounting. Everybody who works in this construction and solar industry is, has something to lose if this goes through.
One of the employees protesting says if the proposal passes, 30,000 to 40,000 jobs could be lost in California. A similar rally is also being held in San Francisco today. An annual analysis of global temperatures released today showed 2021 continued the decades-long trend of global warming. KPBS science and technology reporter Thomas Fudge has more.
The annual report from the federal agencies NOAA and NASA showed that atmospheric temperatures last year made it the 6th warmest year on record.
But the more important point is that, the last 7 years have really been warmer than anything we've seen over the past century.
Russell Vos is chief of the climatic analysis branch of NOAA.
Each of the past 4 decades has been warmer than the decade that preceded it. There's been a steady increase in temperature since the 1960s, and heck, we are probably warmer than at any time we've been in the last 2,000 years at least.
The federal report provided examples of real events like damaging cyclones in the Philippines and wildfires in the American West that feed off of rising temperatures. Maybe the best indication of global warming is the temperature of the oceans, which absorb 90% of the planet's excess heat. Last year set a new record for the ocean's heat content. So did the year before that and the year before that.
That's basically the energy that's available for hurricanes, for various extreme weather events like marine heat waves. It certainly influences climate and weather on the continents. This is the energy that's available to erode the glaciers and ice sheets.
Asked what could be done to stop the progress of global warming, climate scientists at NOAA and NASA said anything that reduces or stabilizes greenhouse gas emissions makes a difference. Every little bit counts. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
Well, we've certainly seen a lot of the clouds as of late, and that's all thanks to an upper level low that's parked just offshore. And it's going to keep spinning those clouds in, and maybe even a few sprinkles as we head through Saturday and possibly again on Monday. So not necessarily a lot of rain chances. Wouldn't be much in the way of moisture if you see anything at all, but we'll keep an eye on it. Here it is. As you can tell, there are high surf advisories in place just because, again, that upper low offshore is kind of keeping that flow coming in and a lot of the wave energy too with it. Notice tonight, though, we get down to 50 in the city. Oceanside coming in at 45, 47 in Ramona, 44 in Mount Laguna, and most of us keeping at least some clouds around. Now, it's not going to be necessarily permanently cloudy, maybe a few breaks of sunshine every now and then, but the thing is we're caught in between this strong high off towards the north, which is keeping so much of the southwest dry, and then off towards the south, again into the Pacific, we've got that upper level low off the coast of northern Mexico, and that's what's keeping the clouds piping their way on in. Mostly cloudy day for us heading into tomorrow. 68 for that high. Head towards Mount Laguna, 56. Borrego Springs coming in at 77, and Chula Vista back into the lower 70s for highs. You get into Saturday, keeping the same pattern here across the southwest dry, but again, we still have those clouds. We still have that coastal influence due to that low offshore, which doesn't really budge much. You can see here Saturday, maybe some breaks of sunshine. Couldn't rule out maybe a possible sprinkle in a few locations, but overall, I think we're looking pretty quiet. There are going to be some more clouds, I think, as we get into Monday. So Sunday actually could be the brightest, nicest day of the next few. That might be your chance to get out and about. Mid-70s for our inland locations on Sunday. And notice, again, seeing some more clouds as we get into Monday. That's when a little bit more energy comes on shore. Maybe a brief sprinkle in a few locations. We do have those showers around for the mountain locations on Monday. I couldn't rule out completely a shower or two on Saturday either. But overall, a really relatively dry trend with extra clouds as we move through the days to come. For KPBS News, I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Melissa Constanzer.
The U.S. Army is hoping cash will help fill its ranks during the pandemic. New recruits are being offered up to $50,000 in incentives to enlist for 6 years. It is the largest bonus the military branch has ever offered. The Army says certain jobs come with higher bonuses because they either need to fill them quickly or the positions are difficult to fill. Bonuses are also given to those who can quickly complete combat training.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, what a Supreme Court decision on vaccine mandates means for workers as COVID cases surge. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And here is another look at today's top stories. Labor unions and essential workers are urging lawmakers to once again provide COVID-19 paid sick leave. Advocates argue without it, people may be going to work sick to stay afloat. Earlier this week, Governor Gavin Newsom suggested that he's on board with re-upping the sick leave, which previously expired last September. Newsom says he's in discussions with legislative leaders. Chula Vista officials have declared a public health emergency, and the city council is expected to back the move next week. A 4-week-long trash strike between Republic Services and their union drivers has led to trash piling up in the streets. The city manager declared the health emergency this week. The declaration could be ratified by the city council on Tuesday. The strike enters its 5th week on Monday. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Previs Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.